Hey, what's up guys, Benny here and welcome to another Apex Legends video, and I'm going to be talking about a huge change to the game's meta and what the best guns actually are now in Apex Legends, because until recently, Apex Legends has been all about getting up in the enemy's faces as quickly as you can, where you had to use automatic weapons like the R301 and R99 to get high kill games, or you would just shoot enemies from a distance with automatic ARs on single shot like the Hemlock instead of using a sniper that's actually designed for that very thing, which just made everyone leave the Scout and Longbow on the floor, but that's all about to change. So during this video, I'm going to be giving you a number of tips and tricks on what weapons to now use, why, and how best to use them to help you get as many kills as possible. We haven't even actually mentioned the Wingman yet, which has been hands down the best gun in Apex Legends so far. And it's a pistol. Not just at range as it being one of the best guns, but close up as well. And if you were accurate and managed to get the skull piercer attachment, you could just drop enemies so quickly they would have no time to react. But I think the Wingman has just lost its crown. So for those of you that may have missed it, weapons in the sniper category have gotten a huge buff, with the damage shot reduction for shooting limbs being reduced from 25% to 10%, so they do overall more damage now, and also guarantee a 4-shot kill instead of a 5 with the G7 Scout if they've got no armor. Snipers also had their base weapon sway reduced by about 33%, making them far more accurate at a distance as well as close range. And thrown into that mix, the base sway speed was also reduced by 25%, so the sway is slower and far easier to control, which means if you have good accuracy and start using them a lot, you will have a big advantage over pretty much any other gun in Apex Legends. The snipers are the new overpowered guns in Apex Legends, hands down. Now, since the update happened, I've tried to only use the Longbow DMR and the G7 Scout and made sure I picked them up at every opportunity. Not only has my win percentage gone up by a load, the amount of kills I've been getting per game has as well. First of all, let's take a look at the G7 Scout, which is a pretty common gun to find in Apex Legends. It's a single shot DMR in the sniper category. A bullet to the body will deal 30 damage and to the limb 27. This means that wherever you manage to hit an opponent, they will die in 4 shots. If they've yet managed to get any armor, 6 shots if they have level 1 or 2 armor, and then 7 bullets if they've got level 3 or 4 armor. Which, with a gun that has a pretty high fire rate and very small damage drop off at medium to long range, it has become my favorite weapon in Apex Legends for my primary. Also, a huge thing with the G7 Scout, and all sniper rifles for that matter, is that headshot damage is doubled. Meaning that if you're accurate enough and can land headshots, you'll deal 60 damage a bullet. 60! That means you can down someone that hasn't managed to pick up any armor in just 2 shots, which to me is insane. And because it's a single shot weapon with very little sway and sway speed, landing headshots if you've got a good shot isn't actually that difficult, especially at short to medium ranges. The base G7 Scout is a beast in itself, but you can also add up to 4 attachments. A barrel, which is going to reduce the gun's recoil, making it even more of a laser beam than it already is. An extended light mag, which I think is the attachment you need to prioritize with the G7 Scout, as otherwise you will find yourself needing to reload a lot, as 10 bullets in a mag just isn't that much, and can get you killed if you get rushed by a couple of players at the same time. You can then have a sight attachment, and as you're using this as a primary weapon and not as a traditional sniper, you want to either use a 1-time sight or the 1 to 2 times holographic sight. I would still recommend avoiding any of the bigger scopes in Apex Legends, as they're just not needed unless you're using the Longbow. Then you have the sniper stock, which is what's going to allow you to use the G7 Scout as a run and gun weapon, which you can use at all ranges. First of all, it gives you fast handling, which the level 3 version allows you to raise your weapon 35% faster than if you didn't have it, which is quite a big amount, and then also reduces your weapon aim drift as well, helping it to become the laser beam that you've always wanted. Now, because until now the G7 Scout has just been absolute hot trash in the meta for Apex Legends, most players are still completely ignoring it whenever they see it. So take advantage of this time and use it as much as you can to rack up some high kill games. Later on in the video, I'll be giving some tips and tricks on how to be better using the snipers, such as the G7 Scout, as well as a few tricks on how to be more accurate. But let's first of all chat about what I think is now the brand new wingman in Apex Legends, the Longbow DMR. The Longbow, like the G7 Scout, has just been looked at like hot trash. Even though the Longbow is a rare drop and fairly hard to find, you would never pick it up. Because why would you use the Longbow over the Wingman? Both used heavy ammo, both dealt a ton of damage, but the Longbow had a lower rate of fire and swayed all over the place and only had one extra bullet in a clip. Well, since that changed in the sniper patch, the Longbow is now insane. It had a 33% fire rate buff, which for a sniper rifle that's a single shot DMR that deals 55 damage a hit and 110 headshot without the skull piercer attachment is bonkers. It is now the powerhouse that Respawn intended it to be in Apex Legends. No longer do you hear a Longbow being shot and go, I'm just going for him first with my R99 Peacekeeper combo, because like the G7 Scout, it's a lot easier to be accurate with the Longbow now, and you've got a much higher DPS because of that fire rate buff. The downside is you of course don't have that insane strafe speed whilst aiming down sights that you do with the Wingman, but you can now output a lot more damage. The Wingman dealt 45 a bullet and the Longbow 55. With the Longbow, you can down an opponent with no shield in 2 shots, or 1 to the head. Or if you can land consecutive headshots, you can bring down anyone in the game, especially if you've got the skull piercer attachment. And that's one thing to bear in mind with the Longbow. It can actually have the most amount of attachments on it in the game. It can have a barrel, a sight, an extended mag, a sniper stock, and the skull piercer hop-up. Which means that when it's fully kitted out, it is one of the most powerful guns in the game if it's in the right hands. It genuinely is the new Wingman and can probably be considered in the top 3 guns in the game now, where before it was probably in the top 10 worst. So if you've been ignoring the Longbow, make sure to pick it up and give it a try. The triple take also got a bit of a buff, but I still think it's the weakest out of all the snipers now, as it just doesn't reward good players enough, as it's not got a high rate of fire, and because the damage spreads out, it's too easy to get outgunned by guns like the G7 Scout, so I just still ignore it a little bit. So we now know that the G7 Scout and Longbow DMR are 2 of the best guns in Apex Legends now, thanks to their recent buffs, but I'm going to give you a few tips now for when you're using them to help you get as many kills as possible and pick up those wins. First of all, it's important to pair the G7 Scout and Longbow DMR with a close range weapon. You'll notice when I'm playing the game, I'll always try to have either the R99 submachine gun or Peacekeeper shotgun as my secondary. This means that I'm able to stand my ground in any combat situation that I can possibly find myself in Apex Legends. If they're rushing me, I'll get a few shots off with my G7 Scout or Longbow before switching to that SMG or shotgun. I'll most likely have already done some damage with my medium to long range weapon, so I'll just be able to finish them off with that SMG or shotgun at close range. Also, if an enemy ducks behind cover because I've done a lot of damage, I'll use Pathfinder's grapple, for example, to get up to them as quickly as I can to finish them off with that close quarters weapon. You want to be applying as much pressure as you can to opponents, so they don't have time to heal and are much more likely to panic because they don't know what to do. My next big bit of advice now that you're going to be using single shot weapons like the Scout and Longbow a lot more, it's even more important that you have a good aim, because missing your shots is a lot more punishing than if you're shooting at someone with a Spitfire where you're eventually going to hit them in a hail of gunfire. So I did a video on how to improve your aim, which you should go check out for more details, but most importantly, use a low sensitivity, especially whilst aiming down sight. This allows you to take advantage of the in-game aim assist, as well as being able to make those small adjustments needed to land consistent headshots, especially at a distance. It doesn't matter who you are and how good of a player you are, but you cannot be as accurate at a distance with a high sensitivity compared to someone that is using a lower sensitivity. You just can't make those small adjustments needed with thumbsticks on a controller. It's just not possible. If you're playing on PC, it doesn't matter as much. Just use what works best for you. But my final tip with the G7 Scout and Longbow is because you can now dominate at all ranges with these weapons, using a legend like Pathfinder or Octane, which gives you the ability to get into the best possible map position, is ideal. Always go for the high ground or somewhere people aren't expecting, and also try to have cover between you and the enemy, because let's be honest, players that are using assault rifles, SMGs and shotguns are going to do their best to get to you as quickly as possible, and if they try to fight you in a gunfight at range and you're using the Longbow or Scout against an R301 or Havoc, you're always going to come out on top. But there we have it. The G7 Scout and Longbow DMR are the two new best guns in Apex Legends that you can find on the ground. Do make sure to let me know if you agree or disagree, or how you've been finding them in Apex Legends since the update. Subscribe if you're new to the channel and smash that like button, and I'll see you guys next time.